Very good evening from Auroville on the 6th day of Auroville birthday, 26th of February. It is a very beautiful light everywhere in Auroville, and it's a very special day for us to have Sri Bala Baskar sir with us. Um, he needs no introduction to most Aurovillians and people from the region, but I would still like to introduce him, and then, sir, you can take over. Natarajan Bala Baskar is a senior consultant with Auroville Consulting. He was the secretary of Auroville Foundation from 1996 to 2001 and again from 2012 to 2014. He worked in various capacities for the government of Haryana and the government of India as a member of Indian Administrative Service. After retirement, he served as a director of Bharathidasan Institute of Management, Trichy, for 2 years. And Bala Baskar sir has been the secretary of Auroville for 2 consecutive terms. And after your tenure, sir, Auroville is almost, again, we are saying that we have in some kind of a crisis. Um, we'll talk about all that, but sir, over to you. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Rivu, for organizing these sessions. Conviviality is what is missing in Auroville these days, and we need a little bit of joyful meeting places here. Well, I didn't prepare a speech. I thought I will speak whatever comes to my mind because I'm retired now. I can say anything I want.
Yeah.
And and I actually I started working for a salary in 1970, and I finally hung up my boots in August 2014 after my re-employment as secretary Auroville Foundation during my retirement. Now, out of these 44 years, I spent 8 years in Auroville, so that is the longest term I've spent in any job. So I want to tell you about the first time I came to Auroville. I did not choose Auroville. Auroville chose me that time. I was joint secretary in Government of India. We had a personal tragedy, and then I was looking for a job in the south. So from somewhere, one of my old bosses called me up and he told me, Bala, you're looking for a job in Tamil Nadu. He says, would you like to meet Dr. Karan Singh? So I did not know what it was about. I went and met Dr. Karan Singh, and he asked me that I need a person in Auroville. So I knew about Auroville, but I did not know why an IAS officer was required in Auroville. I did not know about the foundation, the act, and all the problems. So then he told me that there is a act, and he is the chairman of the Auroville Foundation, and he needs a person who goes there and deals with issues in Auroville in an affable manner without creating problems, because he said that the first secretary of the Auroville Foundation had created a lot of problems and all that. So, I mean, I said I'm willing to go because I'm very desperate to go to Tamil Nadu at this point of time. So he asked me to go and meet Dr. Vaidyanathan Iyer, who was additional secretary in the Ministry of Human Resource Development then, and the Department of Higher Education. He knew me. I'd worked with him earlier. So when I went to see him for the first time, there were three people from Auroville present in the room. There was Srinivas Murthy, and then Carol and Kalyan Nag. So Dr. Iyer introduced me to them and them to me, and then Kalyan Nag expressed his view that they don't want an IAS officer in Auroville because IAS officers are autocratic and generally egoistic, and it will create a lot of problems there and all that. So after they left, I was not very surprised because I've been through many situations of like this. So I was not put off by whatever Kalyan Nag said and all that. But after they left, Dr. Iyer told me that Bala, please don't go to Auroville. He said it's not good for your career and that will create a lot of problem for you and all that. Don't go. I told him, sir, I'm very desperate. I want to go. So I said, so that is how I came. I came here to Auroville. I mean, I brought my wife and son first to show them the place. We met a number of people in Center Guest House, and then I went back and came after about 15 days or something, and the order was issued. I came on October 21st. I came and joined here. My first tenure here was a very enriching and learning experience for me, and I felt very satisfied with myself during my first tenure. Because, as you say, when I came first here, also there has been some kind of a crisis created earlier. 5 or 6 Aurovillians, their visas were, I mean, revoked, and people were about to be sent. One person had been sent out, and he has not come back still. And I mean, all kinds of negative reports had been sent about Auroville by the first secretary, who was a well-meaning man, but I think it was a people were not able to understand each other properly. Anyway, so I the first tenure was quite good. I realized that here one should not speak too much. One should learn to listen. So the first thing I did was, the office used to be in the basement of Bharat Niwas. So there was a big board saying Secretary Auroville Foundation. The first act I did was to remove that board. And I said, I mean, nobody needs to go to the PA and all. Anybody can walk in because there's no secrecy here. And I got a very big table. I think Paul Winson had made, and it was in the quarters of the secretary, which could seat about 12 people or something. That table I shifted to the office room, and I said, "This is where everybody will meet." So I said, "You can talk as much as you want till the cows come home, and I'm here to listen." So that worked very well, I think. People got tired of their own voices, and then they went away. But then during the first tenure, we managed to do a lot of things. We got the master plan approved by the resident assembly. We got the rules of the Auroville Foundation formulated, and that also got approved by the resident assembly and went up. So all these were, I consider, as achievement. We also bought quite a bit of land, and during the first term, I think we acquired somewhere around 140 acres or something, 140 or 150 acres of land. I don't remember. We were able to acquire land from the city area, and all these were achievements. And there was an atmosphere of, I mean, conviviality, as you say, that we could work together and things like that. But then I used to tell them that time itself. I said, I'm from a bureaucracy, and I find your bureaucracy is worse than our bureaucracy. The kind of systems you had set up, they were not. They were just the replication of whatever is outside of power structures. If you are in some group, then it means you are exercising power, not in the spirit of Auroville, where if you are in some position, you are there to help other people. Yeah, I mean, anybody who was in the working committee, he thought he had authority. Anybody who was in the land board, they thought that they should decide what somebody else, not somebody else should tell them what to do and all. And that was very frustrating at that time itself. I so from the first term onwards, I've been telling them that you should opt for the old Chola system of selection of members to various committees. So the Chola system, which is found in the inscriptions in Uttarameru, not far from here, is that the Cholas ran an empire for more than almost 500 years, 5 centuries, and their empire was based on a very decentralized structure. And in the villages, they used to have various committees, various what they used to call variums, which were deciding various things in the villages. Now, the interesting thing about that is these were not elected bodies. They were bodies selected through a lottery system. So they used to write the names of all the eligible people and put them in a pot and place it before the deity in the temple and ask a young girl to come and choose 5 names for the For example, the water board or the some other board, forest board, whatever. They will take five names from the names of all the eligible people who are willing to be on the committee, and they will select the names, and these will serve as the committee. What was happening in Auroville was there was a very long drawn out process. They said we don't follow the democratic process of elections. So you put up names and then you ask for feedback and then negative feedback, and then there is a lot of criticism, lot of anger, lot of this thing. It vitiates the whole this thing. So I used to say that if you have faith that you come here to participate in this great experiment, then you should have the faith to accept whatever is, maybe whatever you call it, divine will or mother's will, whatever. You say that those who are volunteering, you take all their names, put it in a pot, and then take out. I mean, the Cholas had a very stringent qualification criteria of that time, which will not apply now. I mean, so you need not have anything. Anybody who is admitted as an Aurovillian should be eligible if he is willing, put his name in the pot and then select five. And then you should be able to live with that. I don't think there will be, you would have done any worse than what has happened in the past year. But that was one thing which they never listened. They also did not listen about land. Land is the main issue which created the sense of possession in many people. So now the current problems also started with that. Your problem started with somebody saying that it should not go through my land or something like that. Earlier also it used to be there. Now I don't agree with that. I think you need to respect some things. If there is a plan and that plan should be respected, some deviations can be there, but you cannot see. But then it should not be forced down anybody's throat. If you want to displace somebody, then there has to be a long dialogue and try to resettle the person, uh, you know, through dialogue and things like that, and then do the thing. Now people say it's not possible. So I always tell them, even in Auroville, I used to tell them, there is a very big irrigation project called Upper Krishna project. It is in Karnataka. Uh, it's somewhere near Bijapur, you can say, down below Badami and some west of Bijapur. Now this project is much bigger than the Narmada Sarovar project. And Narmada Sarovar project, we had a lot of controversies about displacement and settlement and things like that. Upper Krishna project, we settled more people than in Narmada Sarovar project. Why I'm telling you the story is there was one IAS officer who was in charge of this project. For 13 years, they kept him there because he was indispensable. And I have seen much later, in 2005 precisely, when I went to this place, I used to go to I was the election observer. So I used to go visit election booths and all that. And I have seen this officer's photograph is in the house of the people who have been resettled. I mean, I think it's amazing that here's a guy who was in charge of a project which is uprooting you from your land, from your house, and they're resettling you somewhere else. In the new resettled place, those guys are worshipping this officer. I mean, it's possible that, what kind of sense of possession anyone can have than a villager who's been living there for generations and he has been shifted. So in Auroville, this sense of possession that not through my backyard, not through this thing, that should be discouraged. But it takes time to negotiate and remove them and all that. So that is one thing I felt always back, and we did not have too much serious problem during my time. And in 2012 to 14, one major shift had taken place when I came here. In 2012, the moment I came here, I thought it was a mistake that I came here. I regretted that I came for a second term because Auroville had changed. So I used to tell people, they used to say, well, how do you see the difference? I said that what I see is fences. Everywhere fences. No, there were no fences. I did not see many fences in the first term. When I came here in 2012, after about 11 years or so, I saw fences everywhere. Everybody was trying to protect his own space. or something like that. And it was also that some of the earlier spirit had gone, because I think with the growth in the economy, what has happened outside in India has also happened in India inside Auroville, and people got used to, I mean, for want of a better word, for more luxuries, more comforts, and I mean, and that has created a problem which is which I couldn't handle actually, really. So my second term, when they asked me, what do you consider, when I was about to leave, they asked me, what do you consider the success of your second term? I said, I have no successes. I just managed to survive for 3 years. That's it. So this was the problem, and I think that is what is the root cause of all the problems today. Also, you have there were on the land, lot of things could have been done from 96 to, I mean, 2012, but all the opportunities were lost. If somebody says something, one person will oppose, and then they will defer the whole thing to this thing. This happened not once, many times it has happened. So we lost a lot of opportunity to get lands, and those things are coming back to haunt you now. They were allowing exchange of land right up to 2009, I think. In 2009, the central government put a blanket ban on exchanges of land. Before that, you could go to the government, get approval without any problem. Now they are getting approval because this government doesn't bother about any rules. But as per the government, this thing, the up to 2009, we could have exchanged a lot of land without much problem in a very transparent way. And I always felt that this job is not of the community, not of the secretary or the governing board, because I tend to read the act in its literal interpretation, not by some constructed interpretation where somebody takes over charge of the entire thing. Like at present, the governing board or the secretary, they are interpreting that they are in charge of everything, not the resident assembly, not the this thing and all. So which is not my view. And it was I worked under three chairmen. All of them were of the same view. But I think just before I had come in 2012, they had taken a decision which I think which is the root cause of many other problems later. That was the constitution of the Auroville Town Development Council. You see, as per my understanding and the literal interpretation of the Act, all these committees are to be set up by the resident assembly, not by external body. And the Auroville Town Development Council, because of the internal conflicts and arguments between the residents, they thought that they have to step in, and they uh, set up this town development council with an advisory members and all that. So I remember the first thing I raised with Dr. Karan Singh was that this is not a proper thing. So in fact, I got a legal opinion on this, and then went to the governing board. I'll read out what I was told. I was told the board had acted upon the advice of the previous secretary, and they wanted to give it time to see how it worked. But in reality, however, it was the community which has always chosen the people who will be on these groups, not the governing board. However, the governing board has chosen the advisory group to Lavenir. Lavenir was the original this thing that has become the town development council. So, which is the first instance of the governing board or the secretary supplanting the resident assembly in constituting working groups and taking care of their own business. So,
It happened during your tenure.
not during my tenure. It happened during Mr. Ramaswamy's tenure.
Okay.
You see, there are a lot of Aurovillians criticize Mr. S.R. Sharma, who was my successor actually after I left after 1.5 years or 2 years. There was a person called S.R. Sharma, so who was very tough with the Matrimandir group. There was a lot of conflict here, and Dr. Kirit Joshi himself, Professor Kirit Joshi himself was very unhappy with the secretary. So, but even he never usurped all the powers to himself. In fact, he made the residents assembly, the members, residents, he mobilized the residents to constitute a new Matrimandir committee, But anyway, that controversy, I don't want to go into that controversy, but it was Mr. Ramasamy who was my immediate predecessor in 2000. Uh, I think he was here till 2011, I think. So he was the one who said that residents are not doing anything and we must do this thing. So that was one major problem. So the other problem I think here is, I'm speaking my mind now. Other problem was that Auroville never got too much money from the government. It only used to get money for salary and the maintenance of the foundation staff and the secretary, and a little bit under the plan schemes for some infrastructure, a little bit here and there. It was not much. For Sire used to get some funding for the new education project. Nothing much was coming. Then during my tenure, Professor Kirit Joshi got a high-powered committee to visit Auroville, and a proposal was put up for setting up what is called the Sri Aurobindo World Center of Human Unity. It was called SAWCHU, SACHU. Years. I mean, of 30 years of your existence, you managed, and you should be able to manage for the next 3,000 years. And the people who are here have the duty to keep it going till their time. And one should not bother too much about it. That's how I feel. And that was the second thing. This government grant coming in had created, I think, a new class of people who are close to the powers that be, and that creates more dissension within the community, I think. So that is the second big problem here, and so I think that is the major issue. But I think, despite whatever problems are there, I never lose hope, because when in my office I put up a saying by mother, which I got calligraphed by Popo. Popo calligraphed it for me, and I framed it and put it up in my office. I remember. I'll just read it for you. Mother said, "The city will be built by what is invisible to you. Those who have to act as instruments will do so despite themselves. They are nothing but puppets in the hand of larger forces. Nothing depends on human beings, neither the planning nor the execution. Nothing," she said. That is why one can laugh. And she said it to Supreme. I think it is in the agenda. This. So, I mean, I for one believe that Auroville is a visionary project. It's from the vision of mother, and we are mere mortals. We should not uh, lose faith, and then that it will not manifest because of some minor aberrations here and there. So, so Auroville today might be resembling a resort township where people come for weekends and eat good food and have a good time and go back. But that is not the purpose of Auroville. Auroville has it has got its own destiny, and I think it will happen, and we should just keep the faith. So we are almost towards the end of time. So anything more I should say, or should I end here?
Thank you, sir. As you said that Auroville today looks almost like a um, resort, um, and that is a kind of right, these days this has become the constant kind of an accusation almost, and nobody knows what to do about it. Even everybody is saying that, and almost there is no way forward.
No, no, you don't have to do anything about it. I think it's nothing to be done. You have to concentrate on the relationships between Aurovillians. The whatever you call it, of coming together. How to get people together. That is the most important thing. There should not be any uh, distinctions, which is the original spirit of Auroville, which was there. I am told. And much of it I have seen during '96 to 2001 also, which is eroded now, and that has to be brought back. Translate into this thing. So you have to bring in some practical ideas to get people together and bring them this thing. So which did not happen. I had some ideas, but nobody was willing to listen.
To share slides in between. Rivo, whenever you want.
Yeah, just give us a minute.
Sure, sure. I have a mouse downstairs. No, yeah, don't worry. I've seen other videos, like technical problems, delayed. Yeah, she will do like this. Yeah. Once you could just go from here. It's okay. It's okay. Have you seen any other of this interview? Yeah, I'm thinking of listening to some skimming quickly and see if there
Sound is there.
yeah. I have put it here.
Okay.
This bar cannot be moved somewhere else. No. A drag, sì. It was a blurriness.
Ready?
Now it's here.
Should I say? Uh, Good evening, Giovanni, Radhika, Kaya. Good evening, everyone.
It was a
So we
blurriness.
are having a little bit of internet streaming issues because I couldn't close with Bala Baskar. My internet good evening, Giovanni, Radhika, Kaya. Good evening, everyone.
It was a
So we
blurriness.
are having a little bit of internet streaming issues. I couldn't close with Bala Baskar. My internet take it over. Giovanni moved to Auroville in 2019 after an international legal career that included roles at Amazon EU and Baker McKenzie. His focus has since shifted towards individual and collective transformation. Now he teaches yoga and co-develops experiential initiatives adapting the pro-social framework for intentional communities in service of human unity. Radhika, a dedicated mother of four, Radhika co founded a toddler program at a German school and has volunteered widely over 2 decades. Formerly a postdoctoral fellow in social and preventive medicine in Austria, she also trained in craniosacral therapy, reflexology, Anusara, and yin yoga. Now in Auroville for 4 years, she has been researching consciousness, teaching yoga, giving therapies, and helping at Matri Mandir Gardens while training as a somatic educator. Kaya's life work centers on deepening humanity's alignment with spirit and the natural world. A musician and writer, she holds an MA in psychology and training in healing arts, forest therapy, and permaculture. Before coming to Auroville, she taught meditation, yoga, and chanting and offered spiritual counseling, workshops, and transformative ecstatic dance sessions. Today, they are going to talk on from inner work to collective intelligence, how communities flourish. And yes, Giovanni, Radhika, Kaya, welcome. Please introduce yourselves, how you got introduced to Auroville, and please tell us about the kind of work that you do from here.
Yes, so I go first. Um, so you introduced me with my given name, the name my parents choose for me, Giovanni. And since some years, I've adopted another name, which is not replacing Giovanni, but it's Munai, which is a language spoken in the Ande. It means love. So it's an aspiration. It's not a realization, unconditional love. And it's also to mark a transformation I've been going through since I'm in Auroville. I came to Auroville first time maybe a decade ago, and as a normal guest, knowing nothing about Auroville nor Mother Rogerobindo. And I immediately fall in love with this place. Sorry, there is a little bit of noise. We are in an open space. Um, anyway, the condition of my life were not as such as giving me the chance to join. I'm a father of two girls. They were young at the time. I had a career that I wanted to pursue fully. And anyway, I kept coming to Auroville year after year for 1 week or 2 weeks maximum. And eventually, the situation in my life changed, and I became a friend of, I became a Auroville International member in Luxembourg because I worked 5 years in Luxembourg. I'm Italian, but I emigrated in Luxembourg to work. When I took a sabbatical year, and my first destination to spend some time outside of Italy to travel was Auroville, 3 months in Auroville. I became friend of Auroville, which is another status among many that you can have. Come back home and deciding to join the community. So a little bit before COVID time, I arrived and then I didn't move. Basically, I'm happy here. I did many things during these 6 years I'm in Auroville. And currently, most of my time is really dedicated to prosocial, which is a system, and Radhika will talk about prosocial in a moment. And I also teach yoga. Those are my two main activities in Auroville. I clean the Matrimandir discs as well. For those of you who know, the Matrimandir is the soul of Auroville, is a special place of concentration. And yeah, that's an. But I do many things, but the main ones are those pro-social and yoga teacher.
I first came to Auroville in 1981 as a traveler just out of university and was really interested, really touched by the energies here, this sense of the mother around. But it took me 40 years to come back in a permanent way, which was early 2020. And what draws me here I've always been very interested in shifting humanity into a higher state of consciousness and a more kind and inclusive way of functioning, particularly with the environment, and more spiritual. So I was at the Fintorn News Story Summit in 2014, and that was just amazing for the first time to be with people that are all on the same page, really thinking about humanity and the way forward. Um, and back in Canada, people are a little bit disparaging, like, "Oh, Kaya, are you still wanting to help the world?" And I'm like, "Yeah, aren't you?" Um, and so here, having heard that this was actually a place dedicated to make the explorations and make the shift, um, it's very much a place to come to. And what keeps me here, um, the space of concentration in Machu Mandir, the inner chamber, and the culture. I'm a musician and singer, so I'm in the choir and I accompany other singers. I love going to concerts, I love dancing, and also in terms of reaching to solutions for the future, Pro Social has been very engaging in this last time where there have been less other choices to find solutions and ways forward.
Mm. So as for me, well, I found out about Auroville about 4 years ago. So it was in 2022, maybe end of 2021, by accident. So this was during the time of COVID, and our family was going through a huge shift. There was so many changes happening, and we felt that that was the time we needed something new, and especially new in terms of the way education was approached and the way health or research, was approached. And because, as you know from my introduction, I'm a mother of four, and our youngest at that time was having difficulties just coming to, how should I say this? Coming to terms with the school system. So we felt there was a need to look for something beyond what was available. And so then I happened to Google and stumble upon Auroville, which may not have been a coincidence. It might have been maybe the time to approach Auroville and to come forward to it. And Auroville opened its doors to both of us, so my son and myself. And I think it was the time for me to really dive into yoga a little more deeply. I was doing it as a hobby before that, and therapies that I had learned as a hobby as well. And so this was the time for me to really to go into it and to practice that. And so Auroville provided that space, not just for that, but also to actually go more into what integral yoga was all about. So yes, so I did some research on that, and while I was doing research on the planes and parts of the being, as described by Sri Aurobindo and my mother, it was also an inner work which unexpectedly developed within, and I could see this every time I went back home to my family. This transformation that sort of trickled and happened organically, and I would say this is what is keeping me here, besides projects such as awareness through the body and somatics. Awareness through the body is something that I had discovered, and that just blew my mind. Something that somatics is also involved in. Somatics is a way we use, we get into a body-mind consciousness in order to move, in order to relate, and in order to think. And this is also the beauty of what pro-social is all about, and it's what I'm going to talk to you about in a minute, or we are going to present to you in a minute. We discovered pro-social through one of the co-founders that came to visit here, Auroville, about a year ago. And the three of us did a basic course in that, in pro-social. And we felt there was a lot of potential in helping Auroville to move forward in terms of this principle. And so therefore we moved further into the leadership training and were inspired to bring pro-social into our community. And I guess
So what is pro-social?
Right. So I can now move into pro-social, what it's all about, right? So pro-social is a method of interacting in the context of groups, and it actually helps move forward, It helps to move groups and collectives forward, uh, rooting in self-awareness and helping us to create a sense of self identity and vision, and harnessing that vision into collective action that would help the group to evolve into a newer species that is rich in kindness, in cooperation, and in yeah, in collaboration, in harmony, and in unity. So this method is a means whereby the individuals within a group are able to deeply connect with one another, and the groups are able to connect with other groups in a conscious and collaborative way, creating a respectful, harmonious, and cooperative community. So you know, ProSocial's framework is based on 8 core design principles, which have actually received the Nobel Prize in Economics. And this was Elena Ostrom's brainchild. She was observing communities around the world that were living sustainably over hundreds of years, sometimes indigenous communities, and sometimes communities like fisheries, or communities that used common water resources. And these communities were able to sustain themselves through 8 core principles. And I'd like to share with you a visual of these principles through a slide, if I may, so that you can have an idea of this. So can you see my slide? I hope you can see my slide, so I'll just continue.
Yes, we
So
can see
these,
you.
oh great. So the 8 principles, as you can see.
If you can make it full screen, it would be nice. Like if
All
it can
right.
zoom it a bit.
How do you do that?
You might even be able to on that process on touch.
Hmm.
Can you drag the corners?
Like here?
No, of actually the graphic. Just kind of.
Oh.
No.
No. Oh, let me see. Maybe here.
Oh yeah, that should.
Right.
Is it better?
That's bigger.
Okay. Is this
Now,
better?
now it's better, better. Yes.
Okay. So Ostrom principles are on the left, where she based all these communities' success on these 8 core principles. Now, pro-social has taken them and adapted that to the needs of groups that interact with one another. And I'll just read them out to you. So the first principle is shared identity and purpose, right? So that's a very important, crucial aspect of how groups come together. The second one is about equitable distribution of costs and benefits, or of responsibilities and benefits. And then the third CDP is about fair and inclusive decision making. The fourth one is about transparency, monitoring agreed behaviors. The fifth core principle is how we respond gradually to helpful and unhelpful behaviors through feedback. The sixth one is highlighting fast and fair conflict resolution. The seventh is about the authority to self-govern, which is a very important aspect of pro-social. And the eighth is collaborative relations with other groups according to principles 1 through 7. So you can see from this slide that pro-social is very high on a group that works for all, right? It's about win-win. How do we all benefit, in terms of whatever it is that we want to look at? So this defines a group and its culture as purposeful, equitable, and power arrangement appropriate to the group's mission. Fourth to sixth core principles talk about all working, everything that works for the group. It ensures effectiveness within the groups by utilizing reciprocity, reputation, and trust to balance individual as well as collective interests. So it's about balancing the individual with the group. And then the seventh and eighth is about how we work together with other groups. How do we balance all these principles to work effectively with other groups, right? So, stop sharing this. So those are the 8 principles. Can you see me now? Yeah, okay. Right, so besides these principles, prosocial also uses aspects of cognitive behavioral therapy as well as psychological flexibility in order to refine the way our interactions occur based on all these different contexts from CDPs 1 to 8. So, prosocial provides a means. Conviviality is about the joy of living together through all our difficulties and complexities. And prosocial, I would say, is the means through which this conviviality can happen if we go into a deep dive into ourselves and explore the complexities. We can help to unfold this in a way that is helpful and in a way that helps us to evolve moving forward. And prosocial is also a way to build a bridge between the old way of thinking, which is deeply rooted in our mind, to a new way of living, which is anchored in soulship and centered in our heart. So with that, I'd like to pass the baton to Kaya, and she can continue with what we've been doing the last couple of months.
We ran a 9-workshop series to put over these principles. Our challenge was to make this kind of slightly dry material, worded in a very, sometimes a bit corporate or UN style wording, and to Aurovillianize it. To also make workshops that are experiential. So we had very little talking head and information. It would just be a small amount, and then it would be diving into explorations of various sorts. So we did little theatre skits. We had, coloured cards. We had little, printouts where they were filling in things. There were sharings in dyads, triads, the full group.
The theatre.
Yeah, we did breakthrough theatre where this was in the conflict resolution workshop. So we enacted a conflict and then invited participants to come in to help resolve that conflict. So we used a variety of different ways. One was in polarities of opinions, where I was on one side of what we call the rope, but it's actually a thick cloth.
I can share the
about
slides.
20 feet long.
Yeah.
That
helps.
And then calling different kind of aspects of Auroville life and allowing people to move in an embodied way somewhere between 0 and 10 on one side and 0 and 10 on the other side. So our workshops are very interested in remaining embodied, reading emotionally from the body. So that, I think that we were pleased with the 9 workshops. We have just yesterday been asked by YouthLink to run another series, and the Heart Weavers are also interested in the series. So we'll be continuing this. And we did a presentation at CIRU, and one of the CIRU members commented, but where does the divine fit in? And at first, it seemed like a kind of rejection of everything we were doing. Oh, these are colored cards. So, yeah, there were a lot of creative materials that we were using. Want to move on?
Yeah.
Okay.
There is something else like this.
That will probably go with somebody talking. Okay, well, all right, so this is the spider diagram, and it has the 8 core principles around the edge. And we asked our participants to rate Auroville on how strong we were on each of the different parameters. So this is one of many replies, and they were very different. So our perception of the strengths and weaknesses of Auroville as a community varied a lot between our participants, many of whom have been in Auroville for many decades.
No. Okay, so we can say.
Is the presentation slide supposed to change?
No. We
We'll go back to.
We'll just go back.
Okay.
Oops. Yeah.
So a big part of Aurovillianizing pro-social, including changing the name, because one member of CIRU has suggested we call it pro-collective. Since at the moment we're really considering how we move from individual sadhana to collective sadhana, to Aurovillianize it by pushing the divine and our higher aspirations right at the core. So we're starting from a place of silence and sourcing from the divine, but having a little bit of structure to bring this through, to help organize or coordinate people, and also bringing awareness of many of these facets. So it's not as if pro-social is coming with answers. It's drawing attention, for example, to the number of organizations that we work with. We don't work alone. Or to the many different ways of making decisions. It could be consensus, consent, voting, or a kind of dream-leading method. And that these, through just even a little bit of discussion, there could be a lot more clarity to the way that we make decisions and formulate our ways forward. So we could conceive of a better functioning. But putting divine at the center, say in decision making, that we would start in silence, connecting to the divine, drawn through visions, and then either choosing from or synthesizing, dream weaving between the solutions that are offered, so that our discussions could be much more solutions focused and less problem focused. See if there's anything else I particularly.
Do you want to show the slide on the organizations?
I think I'll just talk for them. Do you going to use
Yeah.
slides? Well, okay, I just wanted to finish a couple of things. That there are a lot of things that we assume that we have together. And one of those is the shared purpose. And one thing that we looked into that we might say, okay, we've got the charter, and we all agree on the charter and the dream and to be a true Aurovillian. And yet, divisions arise. So seeing that part of this is a difference in values and priorities, and that we could actually come together and just, decide on those kinds of things. Do we stay with the 12 qualities of the mother, for example, and emulate that? Or is it more important to have progress in certain kinds of ways? So there are many aspects of life that the pro-social just brings awareness to and offers a certain number of skills. Over to Giovanni.
So I've not so much to add, but I want to check with you, Rivo, first, if you have any question before I say.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask that how you all you have been here. Radhika has been here for since 2020. You have been here, coming and going. How do you? There are so many such pro-social and social various kind of governance or kind of decision making things are tried out in Auroville. Um, how do you see it working on ground? Is it just we practice, but we have an overarching pattern which is being followed? You are also part of working the bodies. How do you see such kind of things remain at an experimental level, or various such other decision making things are? What kind of decision making are we practicing? And because right now we are in a paralysis and we are seeing a conflict of in which the decisions are being made or who's going to decide. How do you see the present scenario?
Yeah, that's a good question. And so, by the way, before one of my first job in Auroville has been as a member of the Resident Assembly Service, RAS, which was organizing the meetings of the community to take decisions and to select working groups. So I'm very well aware of what we were doing before the recent times. The system was not perfect, but Auroville is all about experimenting. So there was what I've seen in my years in RAS, 3 years, already a lot of changing in only 3 years. So before I joined RAS, the community already experimented with different ways of taking decisions. And in only 3 years, I've seen 3 systems changing. So, for example, one interesting thing that the community was experimenting with was how to select new working committee members. In the past, there was kind of voting. There were people volunteering for being part of a group or being indicated, nominated by others. And then, of course, the person nominated should accept or not the nomination. But then there was like a meeting of all the community. There was an invitation sent around, and people who wanted to join could join. And then a voting, and the person with most votes would be selected. And the system was felt not perfect. And in the last years, what has been used is very interesting. It's another system where there was a small group of people. I don't remember, let's say 20, maybe you were part once, 30, 20 people?
4 groups of
40.
4 groups of 10.
40 persons selected randomly within the community. So there was a random selection of 40 people, and these 40 people had to accept, of course, to be part of the selection group. They were trained by RAS, so by me and my colleagues and other facilitators, in the subtle art of how to take decisions, and how to choose the right candidates. And they were so these 40 people were selecting the new members. And if there was no agreement, there was also the possibility of deciding who would be the new member by chance. So a kid or someone outside the room would be asked to join and just take from a hat like few names, and this person by chance would be selected. So again, this is to go away from the voting, which was considered at the time not perfect, to another system. Nowadays, most of the working groups are selected directly by the governing board or the groups and the governing board. So it's another system, more hierarchical, I would say, much less democratic as it was before, or experimental, as just described, this group of 40. but it's the destiny of Auroville to be experimenting with different systems. I think what we are living now is not so much new; it's more a return to the past than something new. It's like more something that has been used in corporates and in corporate environments, in governmental environments where there is a hierarchy, and the boss is selecting those who work behind him or her or them, and it can be an efficient way of selecting people, or can be an efficient way of taking decision. I don't know if it's the way of Auroville. And the future will tell us, but for now, this is the situation.
And I would argue that pro-social, it comes from a scientifically backed method where it has been used successfully in multiple places, in governments, in corporations, in even small teams like gardening communities. So the beauty about these 8 principles is that it can be adjusted and adapted to any situation, whether it's a group of 3 to a national company of hundreds of people. So this is the beauty of pro-social, and we feel that bringing it in with consistency could make a change. It could help in the way people might see their interactions with one another. The thing about pro-social is that there's an element of spirituality in that, which gels with our Auroville, aspirations and the way we live here. And so, yeah, there's a lot of sync with that. So I do believe that it has future in this, in helping us to evolve into a new species.
So,
So,
so
so, so
yeah.
you propose these kind of approaches to the foundation, or how does one go about it? I
You could
mean,
start
does
in
it
units,
remain in a kind of a
Yeah,
units, families, communities, like on all levels. And even just start by getting the facts on both sides of what is to be, on all sides of what is to be decided. Because often the decision doesn't start with the foundation.
Yeah. So it's about actually using the tools that we have and to actually objectivize the situation, whatever it is. If it's a problem, if it's a complexity, make it in a way that everyone will not object to whatever it is. So take away the person from it and to look at it objectively.
Yeah. Anyway, Rivo was asking if we propose to foundation. Not yet. So that's we were focusing on first also experimenting among the 3 of us, because this is the first time we are using the prosocial tool after having been trained. So we have done nine workshops covering all the 8 core design principles and some background training, how to listen actively, how to talk from the heart. This is something some Aurovillians are missing, no? So we transmitted whatever we were living first. So now we have done that, and we start planning for the future. And one thing the 3 of us and those who are joining this group agreed to do is to bring forward ProSocial as a set of tools that can help this community to thrive. And we didn't speak with any foundation representative yet, but we plan to maybe offering, if it's accepted, I don't know, but offering to those who are organizing the trainings for Aurovillians, which are, they were supposed to be done the first time in June, I think, and then it's been canceled, but eventually will come again, or to newcomers, because these are it's a system that works, no? As Radhika was reminding us, it has been validated by with a Nobel Prize, and plenty of scientific evidence that if a community or any group lacks these core design principles, eventually it doesn't work. So the group, the company, the government, the community, all of it will dissolve. And we are going slowly to this because I have had the displeasure of knowing many friends who are leaving this community because they don't feel welcomed anymore. And but we want to stay, and we want to do our part to make this a better place. And how to do it better place? There are plenty of ways. Our way is to share the prosocial tools. So maybe we want another thing we thought is to offer into working groups. So to say to working groups, okay, this is a set of tools we can show you how they work and why they work. Are you available? Are you willing to come for trainings? Maybe we can make it short because, of course, 9 workshops of 3 hours each might be too much. So we have to find new format also to convey this message. We want to work with the youth, which is the future of any community, including Auroville. So this is already done, by the way. So Kaya had good contact with YouthLink. So we will start soon working with YouthLink, which is, you might know, but maybe other people connecting now or listen to the recording, they might not know. So it's one of the many groups in Auroville which brings together the youth. Heart Weavers is another group of people which try to connect to their hearts as much as possible, talk and act through the hearts. I've been a member of the group since its inception 4 years ago. Kaya is part of the group as well. Many heart weavers participated to our workshops. We want to offer to them these tools as well. Yeah, so there are plenty of ways, and eventually, if this prosocial, which will be called differently, we came up with a new name because prosocial is a no-profit organization, an international no-profit organization. We are members of prosocial. There is a WhatsApp group. There are monthly calls and meetings, but we want to make it more specific for communities, for Auroville, and for communities, for intentional communities. So we want to use the prosocial tools and adjust to communities, because prosocial can be used for corporations, for city management, for all levels of group work. But anyway, does this answer your question?
Yes, it does, Giovanni, and it is interesting, particularly when in the community we are kind of facing a situation where people are kind of resigning from their. As yesterday, somebody said resigning is not the right word, and like both Matilde and Sophie were there. They said no, no, no. There is no question of resigning. There is a resilience, and we have to figure out ways of figuring out how we can keep decisions and governance within ourselves, where a paralysis from our side is what resulting in kind of that space being taken over by other powers to which we are not being able to come to in terms with, or we are not being able to have dialogue with. And in such a scenario, when initiatives like yours definitely is a very, very important. How do you think is kind of because you are also a part of the other the
So
residents assembly working groups.
yeah,
You
so
know,
Rigo,
do you see a conciliation possible? Do you see some
okay.
kind of
So
a
I am in a difficult position here, to be honest. I resigned last week,
okay?
and I had to resign because my visa is still pending,
Okay.
and I think I'm the only one in the Auroville Council. I'm the only one with a visa pending. The other ones, either they are Indian, so no need of visa, or they have visa, and my visa would have been pending indefinitely if I wouldn't have resigned, and I'm not even sure I will get it. So what I wanted to add to Matilde's comment, so Matilde is another fellow Aurovillian, is that we have to be also real. I want to help this community to thrive. I want to help this community to go back. No, to go back is not the right word actually, because even in the past we experienced the hard times and fallbacks. I want to focus on the future, and to help this community to focus on the future, I have to be able to be in India, and without a visa, this is not possible. So if the situation, I mean, of course, I would have hoped otherwise, but that's the reality where what we are living, is the reality we are living. So I'm no longer an Auroville Council member. I couldn't stay. I tried my best. I had several meetings with the persons in charge. I had to resign.
Okay. Okay, and there are hiccups and problems happening. Even Satprem was here the other day.
Yeah.
His visa was revoked. He's back in the country, and we are all questioning. So, is this visa thing is just a posturing for us to know that we have gotten rid of the Satprem, but yet Satprem's country still needs him. Satprem is in India, but he's not quite good for Auroville. So I don't know this current crisis going on. There's a lot of confusion. People's visas are not there, but still the nation wants them. There is no clarification why their visas were revoked or they're Auroville. They're not good Aurovillians, but yes, the nation in the country, other parts, a lot of other initiatives we are required.
I have a hope that if we were to come together more and to really think about how to self organize, make decisions, resolve conflict, to monitor our commitments, to have ways of holding people responsible, that with a little bit of structure, maybe we would win back the trust to give us a little more autonomy. I don't know.
Yeah, but that has been even Bala Baskar sir, just before you guys came in, he was also talking about post 2014 when he came back. You know, he saw fences, and there are he said the things were going out of control. It is not that just that the administration from outside came and did something. There was something inherently within our decision making, a loss of faith and a lack of trust. Bala Baskar said that probably the issues began with coming of the government grants. You know, life became easy and all that. So yes, you know, as you said, we need to have mechanisms within ourselves where we are being able to uh, we can make ourselves accountable to, and we can and I don't know. We are almost ending in a very, very sad note, but that's not the
Yeah.
irrespective of the fact that you have a visa or not. Irres- you are a part of the community. You have been engaging. You are engaged. Such bureaucratic disengagements may not work for us. But thank you for your good work. Thank you for bringing in good practices from everywhere else. And yeah, there was a time when I was part of the highway committee, or I would invite myself and go to resident assembly meetings. You know, there is a resignation for past 3 4 years. I don't have to do anything, as if things are moving on its own, but which is not the case. We all know that is not the case. There is a decision paralysis, and we are not aware of the decisions, or we are being told the good decisions are being taken, and we'll see how that unfolds. And we hope that mm, we do not have this anguish on any sides of people having to leave for any other reasons. Thank you, Giovanni. Thank you, Radhika, and thank you, Kaya, for sharing your thoughts. Mm,
Remo, I will leave you the last word, but because it's a little bit depressing, this, and I had to express because you mentioned that I couldn't restrain, but I'm very optimistic for the future of this community. And I trust fully Mother when she said that Auroville already exists. No, the beauty of Auroville, the most beautiful Auroville we can think of, it's already there. And the three of us, and many more, not only the three of us, you, there are many who really wants to bring this best future Auroville can have now, not even in a year. I want it now. And I think the space the four of us are creating, it's already a beautiful space. Let's have this energy spreading around in Auroville, because this is only about energy, no? That's why we wanted to create Pro Collective. So Pro Social is very mental, mainly mental. We are in Auroville, we believe in energy, we believe in spirit, we believe in God, in Mother. Let's call Mother. Mother, come, do the miracle now, tomorrow. I don't want to even wait. So I want the visa tomorrow. So I'm gonna message you if this happens. I want the visa tomorrow.
May all your wish come true. May nobody needs a visa
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
go
So
anywhere.
that
mother
that would
talked
be
about
ideal.
mother talked about the passport for Aurovillians.
Yeah.
So that's the future. That's mother said it, no, in the agenda. So Auroville eventually will have a status different, something we cannot even imagine. We can't imagine because now we have governments, we have states, we have corporations, we have greed, we have lust, we have all of these things. But in a future we want to have this. That's why we are here, no? We are here for this. We want another future. Otherwise, I would have stayed with my wealth in Luxembourg.
I'd like to add one more thing. So our aspiration is to source directly from the divine, divine anarchy, divine vision. And I see these pro-social awareness and skills as a stepping stone that will support that, but keeping the divine in the center. I think that is that will make the difference perhaps between many great ideas that have come through Auroville, but there are some people who see that that's taking away from the real higher aspiration. And so if we can really align with the high aspiration and move towards a place where we are so aligned with the divine and the natural world that we will just sense and energetically and within ourselves what that alignment is.
Thank you. Thank you. May all your words come true. Thank you, Giovanni, Radhika, and Kaya. Thank
Thanks
you
a
for
lot.
being with us. And we are in, yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And
Thank you,
Thank
Ribu,
you.
for
close
getting
the
all this together.
conversation.
Thank you for
Yeah,
organizing.
yeah,
And for
yeah,
accommodating us.
Ciao.
yeah. Thank you.
Okay, let me see.
It's okay, no?
I don't know. Okay.
You press the
Yeah, but if you close, you can close.
Ashavari, come online.
Going back.
So you became Vajrasara in Auroville, right? Well, okay, we'll talk later. Okay. Good evening, friends. Welcome to the third session this afternoon on the sixth day, on the 26th of February, on Auroville Convivial Talks. Today we have with us Ashavari, Vajrasara. So she calls herself Vajrasara, and Vajrasara is a transmedia artist working with image, movement, and text. She is the recipient of scholarship of both Kathak and academics from premier Indian and American institutions. Vajrasara has created critically acclaimed work both within classical dance and in intersections with theatre, video, and photography. Her work has been exhibited in prestigious dance and film festivals, as well as off grid venues across India and the world. She has received numerous grants for her artwork from both Indian and foreign organizations and is the co founder of Manifest Dance Film Festival India. Vajrasara is going to talk about Auroville, the power of the idea, an analysis of Auroville as a model of anti capitalist and anti imperialist resistance. Over to you, Vajrasara.
Thanks, Ribu. Thanks a lot, Ribu and Richa, for this opportunity. First of all, the idea is extremely interesting, and I, read some of the abstracts of the other speakers, and I wish that I could have heard most of them. And it reminded me actually of my early years when I first used to come to Auroville. I first came in 2004, and these spontaneous conversations would happen with Aurovillians about Auroville, and what you're doing seemed very similar to that. So, very, very interesting initiative. I really like the title, and thanks for giving me the opportunity. I was very excited to be a part of this, not just because being a Bengali, I love to talk, but also because I think this is a way for me to really articulate something that I would not normally be able to. So thanks a lot. It lies so far outside of my other work. Uh, so thanks again for this.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So I actually, after I sent you the abstract, I did refine it a little bit, and I decided that the areas that I'm going to look at. Or first of all, I think I'll just
You should
start.
also introduce yourself. How did you come across Auroville? In fact, you came across Auroville and you spoke about Auroville at one point of time to me, and I said that that time I didn't even want to know. I was busy, and then you came here and you lived here. So also tell us about your encounter with Auroville a bit.
Well, I first came in 2004 for a family wedding, and I didn't really feel anything then. But when I came back, I visited after that a couple of times. But it was when I came back in 2009, actually, to Adishakti that I felt that I've come home. And I think that is really what this place means to me. And I did join Auroville in 2018. I was announced as a newcomer, but I left. I wasn't sure if I was going to stay here. And when I came back, I mean, both my children have been to the kindergarten here. And we lived here in a community and at the fringes for almost 8 years now, except for a little gap when we went back to Cal. And both my children study in the ashram school, and for me, Auroville is an extension of the ashram. I don't see any separation between that. Um, and really, personally, it's the place where I feel I'm home, and secondly, I feel that it is a harbor in the tempest. It is a oasis, and I'm going to get into specifically starting from how I think of myself as an artist. That I think of myself as an artist who is practicing a, a classical art in a post-colonial country. I think of myself as a post-colonial subject, and where political decolonization has not been followed by cultural decolonization. And so this is the context in which I think of myself as an artist, and this is also the my relation to how I'm going to speak about Auroville now. And after I sent my abstract, I thought that there's so many areas that Auroville inspires me in. The ashram inspires me, and the Auroville inspires me in. But I wanted to focus on specifically the anti-imperialist and anti-capitalist ramifications of the systems in Auroville, or the ramifications of Auroville. And for me, actually, Auroville is not an idea. It's not something that is intangible. By idea, I mean something that's purely intellectual or intangible. It has a concrete form. There is Auroville, there are buildings, there are systems in place. And again, I think this strain that I want to focus on is the value of its systems in this anti-imperialist and anti-capitalist resistance or struggle. So I thought, the things I wanted to talk about were money, land, um, food, and I thought, of course, also about schooling, because that was again an extremely important area of concern for me. And I thought when I was trying to structure this talk that food would probably be an interesting entry point into this very, very complex um, system that is Auroville, and a very complex counter resistance that I see it as. So, food, because it's so basic and it's absolutely, of course, universal, which is cliched, it's a universal need. And at the most basic level, what Auroville has achieved with food, I wanted to talk about what, for instance, it has grown, what the farms have grown. And apparently the mother had wanted, one of the first things that the Aurovillians were supposed to do, and which also happened in the ashram, is to become self-sufficient in terms of growing food, right? And again, right from the beginning, there was emphasis on growing organic food, which is the practice, which is how the food is grown. But also, I think if I begin with what is grown, so one of the things that you can find in Auroville is millets, and millets are now being sold as superfood, all over the world, and it's been termed the food of the future by the WHO very recently. But it's been a long practice in AV, and these are local millets. These are not imported millets like quinoa, which you now find in the metropolitan cities everywhere. So millets have been termed the future food because they are drought resistant, they're cheap, and they don't need to be grown with pesticides. And of course, millets are local to South India. So, the significance of growing local, cheap, non-GM food, and anticipating that there will be a need for that is, I think, one of the major contributions of Auroville. And again, the ramifications are manifold, right? So starting from individual health to, let's say, public health, and then we can move to a even larger arena, which I will come back to. Now, again, starting with what is grown. So, let's say millets is one thing that I focused on. There is, of course, a drive to grow local food and local vegetables. There is a consciousness that that has to happen. And once the food is processed, there are so many cafes and it's being sold in cafes. Once it's processed and once it's sold as a commodity, it's not the food that is sold is outside of the food industry that we see all over the globalized world. There are no trends. There is no trendy food. You won't suddenly see sweet potato fries in Auroville Cafe. It's not. It doesn't have Instagrammable menus. It doesn't menus all over the world. The major cities and the cafes have very, very similar menus and will change, but that hasn't happened mostly in the Auroville Cafe. So it is outside that food industry. It doesn't offer Coca-Cola, which to me was, again, if you look at Coca-Cola as a symbol of American imperialism at McDonald's, there's a conscious decision not to sell Coca-Cola, and it sells alternatives like flour syrup sodas and things like that. And of course, the processed food that it sells is processed in small quantities with minimal preservatives. There are no food technologists, no industrial production happening here. And then again, and now, if I come to how this food is grown, it's organic and it's grown without GM, without chemical pesticides or too many chemical pesticides. And this is important again, not just for individual and public health, but as a sustainable agricultural practice. And when we talk about sustainability, I think something that doesn't get mentioned is that the dominant practices are unsustainable. This is something that is implied when you use the word sustainable agriculture, sustainable practices, but it doesn't. There is this discourse is missing that the current practices are unsustainable, and this is where it's linked to capitalism, the capitalist modes of production, and of course neo-imperialism, because agricultural trade and or agricultural land use is one of the areas where neo-imperialism is being very strongly contested, right? And the recent US trade deal that happened, which has dictated the tariffs that India cannot impose on US goods, and the amount of goods that India will need to buy from America every year for the next 5 years, which amounts to $500 billion in 5 years. Most of it is agricultural goods. So, if we look at the question of food self sufficiency and how it's related to food security, and if we extend the idea of Auroville as a community or a city to what the nation needs and to why food is such an important, such a basic, such a primal, and such a hotly contested area, issue. This is one of the threads that I wanted to follow. And so, food self sufficiency and food security, and again, the reason why the way I'm linking it to neo-imperialism is because the way you use your agricultural land use, your decisions on what you grow and how you grow, uh, are being dictated by the World Bank to countries in the global south. The World Bank has been suggesting for decades now that countries in the global south should shift from growing food grains, they should import food grains, and that they should grow cash crops. And the countries, the ex-colonial and the post-colonial countries, have been resisting it because food grain prices tend to stay stable and cash crop prices fluctuate. And whenever there's an economic crisis, the cash crop prices crash. And countries in Africa which have adopted this suggestion, they have faced something called globalization famines. And it has also made them vulnerable to the weaponization of sanctions by the US. So, this is again how food security, sustainable agriculture, self sufficiency in food production is a field of uh, counter resistance or direct struggle against imperial policies. And I think the other thing, again, coming back to food. So I talked about what this food is that is grown and its significance, how it's grown. And the third thing, which is so interesting, is the way it's consumed in Auroville. Is that there was an insistence right from the beginning that every it should be a communal consumption of food. The mother didn't like the idea of having separate private kitchens and dining rooms, and she wanted everyone to eat in a communal way. And to me, that really is democracy in action. When everyone sits together, whether it's the you know person who's conceptualized a project or whether it's the person who's executed the project, if there are differences between these two areas, uh, that is for me real democracy in action. That not only are you eating the same food, you're sharing the same resources, but you're also eating in the same place and together. And the the norm is, of course, to have family kitchens and family dining rooms. And the basic unit of society is the family. But the moment you shift it outside, and it becomes communal and outside of the family, you've already destabilized this unit, which some theorists have said is the basis of capitalism and patriarchy, the nuclear family. To expand it to the community is again a kind of radical intervention, I feel. And another thing is about food and the farm is that living here you don't have that kind of a rural urban disconnect. You know, you personally, I can live in close proximity to farmers. You know, I've eaten at the same table with farmers, I've had conversation with farmers, and that I feel is real solidarity. You know, it's not just intellectual solidarity or moral sympathy with the farmers' situations, but to actually live and experience, let's say, the way I've experienced this solidarity is, for instance, when we've taken milk from one of the Auroville farms, and suddenly the supply stopped, and we were told it's because one of the cows was ill, and at that time my children had time, so we actually went and visited one of the cows, and we were constantly updated, and we knew where the cows lived, we knew what was happening, we were friends with the farmers. So this kind of solidarity with farmers is so important, especially in this time and in a country like India, where that the number of farmer suicides that have happened from the 90s, from liberalization, when liberalization started, probably, I don't know if anyone has done this study, but it's probably equivalent to civilian deaths, during the freedom struggle. I'm not sure, but I feel that this proximity and the kind of opportunity that you get to really interact with farms, with farmers, is the basis of a kind of a concrete solidarity with agricultural practice with farmers. So I think this is the significance, and this is how I wanted to look at food as an entry into how Auroville and its models and systems um, are forging resistance and could be a model for um, future resistance. And it's even showing the way, showing the areas in which you need to work. Um, so I have 10 minutes and I will then quickly, shall we just go into questions? I just wanted to talk about
No, you
land.
want to speak about money and education.
Money and I think land ownership also. I think one of the things that flows me about Auroville is that there is no land ownership legally, and it's the idea of not having private property. Of course, it strikes at the heart of capitalism, but it's not replaced by state ownership, right, or even a welfare state. It is by individual consent, which is completely unique. And I think that to moving from that to actually talk about or envision a time when there will be no need for even governance, or let's say self governance, is one of the concrete ways out of these political systems. Yeah. So, and I'll come back to this in my conclusion. The other thing is, about, of course, about money. That Auroville is intended to lie outside the money economy. and it doesn't mean replace cash with digital money, but just that money is not that work or labor should not be tied to income. That again is an idea that strikes at the heart of capitalism, of globalized finance, capital, or even if you look at it in a very domestic example, the notion of paid work and then the notion of its corollary, which is unpaid work, which is usually gendered and which is tied to patriarchy, um, it destabilizes all of that. And I think destabilize is also a very mild term for what Auroville does, because it's not just about a destabilizing or intellectual deconstruction. It is offering a living, breathing example and an alternative. And so much of capitalism has been justified by saying that there is no alternative. This, I think, is the real value of Auroville, that it shows you to be its extremely concrete manifestation of alternatives. And yeah, I think I'll end here because we can continue.
So good to hear that we often kind of take some of the things that you spoke of for granted, or it appears like a kind of a losing battle. Good that you have been here for a little while, you're from the fringes, you put light onto something which we take for granted. What exactly does those things mean, and how radically important those small little gestures or values of Auroville, which kind of, uh, as you said, that are a direct questioning to the capitalist form of functioning. How do you think you have also been seeing Auroville for the past 5 6 years, uh, and you the kind of you spoke about the trade deal and also the current situation where there is a kind of a decision paralysis, a lot of anxiety within the community, which I'm sure you must be guessing, a lot of investments which are happening in the fringe of Auroville. Do you think that Auroville will be able to survive this resistance, or are we kind of in an extremely critical juncture at this moment? How do you see that from?
So I think that first of all, there has been a trend of dismissing Orwell as an idea. Now, if it were, I think the very fact that there is an attack shows that it's not an idea, right? The attack is very concrete. It's if there is an attack. So I think first of all, maybe Orwellians should congratulate themselves on the fact that this more than anything underlines the fact that it is a living, breathing, very material fact. And I think something like Orwell will always be under attack by the other, always, right? Because Orwell, by its very being, is a critique. If there was no Orwell, the victory would be complete. But just by being, it's a big threat. It's not small and it's not tiny at all. And I think if you do think of Auroville as a very small place, with a very limited number of residents, and then why should such huge machinery be spent on attacking it? Or let's say, why should, and it's similar to the attack on a university or a college. Why does the state need to bring in so many resources to attack a few students? So there must be something extremely powerful happening there. So I think that is, first of all, Aurovillians should congratulate themselves, and they should stop thinking of Auroville just as an idea, and stop thinking about it as an experiment. I don't think. I think it's after 50 years, Auroville to me is a step. is not an experiment. You could have talked about it as an experiment in the initial stages before there was any concrete manifestation that happened. But Auroville is a step in a certain direction, and it will always be under threat from the others. But I also wanted to just finish something. I did talk about politics, but I also wanted to talk about this fact that what is again special about the idea underlying Auroville and the ashram is that not only was it intended as an alternative social system, or even as alternative system to politics as a whole, because I feel that what the thesis is, the premise is that all political systems are flawed because the human being is flawed. And I feel that, the introduction of a moral or ethical critique is so valuable and so important, and it's almost ontological because it's saying that the human being has to morally and ethically improve to be ready for any political system, right? So all these political systems, whether it's capitalism or communism or welfare statism, all of them are doomed to fail because the human being is not is morally or ethically not ready. And this subject is not something that you hear about in political philosophy. It's not something that is in that discourse. So I think that is extremely important.
So it is something like Devashish Banerjee was talking about, based in kind of psychology. There has to be that the we need to kind of have a. Do you think that Orwell's approach towards or this aspiration to have a kind of a post-democratic and post-nationalistic, spiritual, anarchic, is kind of is there kind of a psychologically, it, it is a possibility, or like do you see Orwellians like that, in terms of who can kind of uh, go beyond their colonial and imperial nostalgia towards this post-democratic, spiritual, anarchic, like, existence? What kind of a courage one needs to have to be able to stand to be talking to the powers then? Because also you were speaking about this attack as an attack. A lot of other Orwellian, the conversation I had there, for them it was like, no, it's not an attack. I understand there is a fear, or uh, so how do you see that from outside? You're seeing, you tried, you were almost uh, been a part of this community, and then you have been seeing it from outside. Do you think in gesture we kind of reflect such values?
Two things. I think, I would say, and similar to the ashram from the 60s and 70s, that the children who were growing up then and the second generation in Auroville and the ashram were multi-ethnic, right? And they were multinational because you had parents from different ethnicities and different nations. So already in practice, the idea of a nationality uh, is being challenged, right? What nationality does someone who has a French parent and a Tamil parent have? And then how do they align themselves as imperialists or neo-imperialists? That's, you can see that in action in Orwell. Uh, and more all over the world, which is why it's so interesting what you said, that again in this world, and Auroville of course is reflecting the world is increasingly multinational, and dual citizenships, the idea of a single citizenship or a single nationality or a single linguistic identity also has become very old fashioned. And how do we then still continue be colonial apologists or chauvinists. How does that happen? I think it's probably a lack of reflection and a lack of information, because the complex that controls information, it's not just military industrial, right? It's military industrial, parliamentary, academic, think tank, it's media. The whole complex is so powerful, that, let's say, information about farmer suicides and what's actually happening, you won't see that on mainstream media. But I do think that living here as ex colonizers in a country which you have formally colonized, uh, if there is no reflection on that, I don't understand how that can be. And maybe this information, which has been resisted, this fact that Western economies and Western prosperity has not come about just by hard work or technological innovation. It has come about from destroying the economies of the global south and from where immigrants are moving. I don't think it's possible to live here and not reflect on an issue like immigration, and that someone, an Indian, let's say, who's living in the West or in a European country is an immigrant, and what is that immigrant experience? Whereas if you are European and you're living here, but in Auroville, you are not an immigrant, are you? And that's because of Auroville. But right, so I don't know why the limits of self-reflection on individuals, but maybe as a community, um, there could be some initiative to talk a little bit more about this. Ribu, I feel even from any general discourse, whether in academia or anywhere mainstream, public discourse, post-colonial or colonial issues and imperial issues are kind of always sidelined, right? So like gender and race, and these things always take a prominence. Um,
Yeah, thank you to kind of bring these things up. Yes, you brought up some things which are extremely critical and touchy. We kind of choose other words and other ways of skirting the issue. Thank you, making it particular. Thank you, Vajrasara, for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rivu Richa, and hopefully this will be a quid pro quo, and you will soon be talking for us.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Thank you.
see you.
See you.